Today, we're going to study a new kind of magnetism by which UFOs may fly, which I call vortex magnetism. Here's a UFO. You can see a big disc with 3 lobes below. And here's a crop picture which describes that UFO with these 3 lobes and a big disc around the center. And that looks just like the apparatus we're going to use in our experiments today. In our experiments today, we're going to take what's known as a magnetic flywheel, which are 4 magnets on a piece of perspex stacked about 3 deep, and we're going to put them on that aluminium rod. When we add DC current to this ring electromagnet and turn on the power, that flywheel will jump up and float in the center and also be able to spin like a propeller. Why is this relevant to UFO propulsion? Because the crop artists have told us many times, friendly ETs, that they fly through space using a magnetic spinning propeller, something like this. You can see the magnetic fields are horizontal as drawn in the crop picture. And that's just like what we're doing here with the rotating magnetic field and the magnetic flywheel. We're making a magnetic spinning propeller. When I talk about a new form of magnetism, I mean that the ring electromagnet will have ordinary DC magnetism, and that the coils below will be given 3-phase magnetism, both of which we know. But when they interact together with a magnet like this at the center, you expect them just to spin or be held up, but actually they have up-down forces like this, which are not in any textbook, just like water going down a sink, and I call that vortex magnetism. Today we will be studying a very simple model system of a ring electromagnet given DC power, and below that we have 3 3-phase wire coils all pointing inward. This may be related to UFO propulsion if we put a magnet or a magnetic flywheel in the very center. Let me show you how this works. In the center we put a magnetic flywheel with 4 magnets all stacked about 3 deep. It's being held up by DC power given to the electromagnet. Then when we add 3-phase power to the wire coils below with a variable frequency device, you'll see that magnetic flywheel begins to spin in the same direction as the DC power. Now there's nothing surprising about that, but watch what happens next. When I turn up the power, it goes down to the very bottom. Turn it off, it comes up again. Turn it down. As the power goes up, it hits the bottom of the device. So there's some sort of vortex interaction pulling that magnet down into the wire coils. Now some people might say that what you're showing us is ordinary magnetism, but it isn't. Here are the north poles of that 4-magnet flywheel pointing up, and when I turn on the 3-phase power, they start spinning and go down very rapidly. As if by a vortex. What happens when I flip to the south poles? When I flip that magnetic flywheel so that the blue south poles are pointing up, also I flip the field of the DC electromagnet and put on the same 3-phase power. Again we see it spin in the same direction of the rotating magnetic field, and again it goes down. So this has nothing to do with north or south poles regarding the 3-phase rotating magnetic field. Just in case you don't understand ordinary magnetism, I've taped a neodymium magnet to the table here so it can't move. Now we have these north poles red of the magnetic flywheel, and they are attracted to that stationary magnet very strongly. Now you would expect the blue poles to go down also based on what we saw in the spinning motion, but in fact the blue poles are strongly repelled. You can't put them down on top of the magnet. So ordinary magnetism behaves totally differently than what we're seeing in our new device today. Here's another flywheel of the same size, 80 millimeters in diameter. And you can see now it's got 8 magnets stacked double on one another. When we turn on the 3-phase power, it starts spinning, and then it goes down again to the bottom of the device. Turn off the power, and it rises up again. Next, we're going to look at a 90 millimeter magnet. Turn on the DC power, and that makes that electromagnet float right inside the electromagnet, inside the empty ring space. When we turn on the 3-phase power, it starts spinning again and goes down. Turn off the power, it comes up again. Now here is a 100 millimeter flywheel with 8 magnets double stacked. As we turn on the 3-phase power, it begins to spin, and then at higher powers it goes down and wobbles. Against the bottom. We turn off the 3-phase power, it rises up again because the magnetic vortex has disappeared. Here we have a 100 millimeter flywheel. Turn on the DC power, it rises up. It has 12 magnets in the center. As we turn on the 3-phase power, it begins to spin and goes down and wobbles, and when it goes down to the 3-phase vortex to the bottom. Turn off the power, it rises up again. Just to summarize, we have studied today how UFOs may fly through space using a magnetic spinning propeller, a novel kind of magnetism which hasn't been seen before. When we turn on the power to our DC electromagnet, first DC power, then 3-phase power, we create a magnetic spinning propeller. First, it spins within the plane of the DC coil as shown in this crop picture. It spins right inside that DC electromagnet, and then it jumps up or down using 3-phase power, which is a trident symbol. Interestingly, a UFO contactee from the 1970s called Norman Paulson from California was taken aboard a UFO, he says, and he claimed to know how the device works. And it works just like these 12 magnet flywheels we have tested here. The outside perimeter of each spinning disc carries 12 magnets. This magnetic and gyroscopic effect of spin creates its own gravity. So that's just what we've been studying here. What are the odds? I think we're on the right path. Thank you very much. We will continue.